Hey everybody, Mark Edward Lewis here from CinemaSound.com. What are we talking about now? We are in the edit volume of the Podcaster Survival Guide. And now it's about editing, coincidentally enough. Well, what do we edit in a podcast? Pretty much dead time, bad takes, and breaths. If we want that kind of editing, we definitely need to get rid of dead time and obviously bad takes, as we talked about in the recording sections. We need to have marked beforehand while we were recording, help us so that we don't have to listen to the whole thing again and find dead takes. We just go to the marker points and we select them and move on from there. So how do we do it? Well, let's jump into Adobe Audition and find out. All right, so we're here at Adobe Audition. And if you've never opened Adobe Audition, then I invite you to come stream our product Adobe Audition 1, 2, 3 at CinemaSound.com, which takes you from, I don't know how to do it all. I've never even booted Adobe Audition. Maybe I'm a photographer, all the way to being able to deliver in 5.1 and better. Now here in Adobe Audition, basic editing looks pretty much like a non-linear editor. We've got the timeline here in this general area here. And then we take any of the clips that are here. We can select the Move tool, either with the V key or manually or with your own special key commands, and click and drag these files to any track we wish and any time we wish. And because we're in podcasting, typically we don't have to sync this with any kind of video, so life is much easier. Also, if we hold down or we move the mouse down to the bottom left of the clip, we can change the in point to any place we choose. And same with this, we'll move down here and we'll be able to change the out point to all the way to the end of file, which is nice. These little square things here actually create crossfades, which we'll be talking about, and same with the out crossfade here. This line here is the actual clip volume, which we can turn up and down to be able to change this clip alone, not the track volume. The track volume, of course, is over here, which changes the volume of all clips on this particular track. To be able to zoom out, we can take this, well, the zoom column or row here, and you can see as you zoom, as you move these things back and forward, you get an enhanced zoom aspect. And also you can see in here where the individual clips are in a microcosm, or a macrocosm actually, the timeline being the macrocosm. This slides us up and down through all of the tracks that we want. Then of course you can use these buttons here to do the same kind of thing, zooming in or out. And then down here, this also allows us to zoom in and out of tracks. And one more thing to look at, if we hold down Shift and go in between the tracks, we can control all of them themselves or individual tracks if we wish, just like so. Pretty nice way of doing business here in Adobe Audition in the edit window. And how do we deal with dead time? Well, pretty easy to deal with dead time here. Let's just see. Let's find some dead air. Let's see here. This will be good. And you can see once we import the files into Adobe Audition, it becomes a nice visual representation of where the good sound parts are. You can see here it's kind of, pre-roll things. Here's the claps for sync. And then the real part of the dialogue or the interview starts probably right about here. Let's see. As we scroll. So Lisa, what had you get involved or interested in acting? And that's it. So this is a 2-track situation. If we had a 1-track situation, it'd be really quite easy. But even with 2 tracks, it's quite easy indeed. We're just going to zoom in. I'm using the plus tool that I have set up to be able to zoom. So that's her breath. So Lisa, and we can see this part here, which we really don't want to deal with. We don't want her happy little breathe in as a start to our podcast. So I'm going to solo this first track, which is me, and we're going to zoom in. Solo, of course, meaning that all other tracks are muted. So Lisa, so this starts right about here. So Lisa, and we can scrub. There's the S of the so. Now remember this, that scrub, the sound that you hear as I move this back and forth, should not be considered the most accurate way to tell where sound is and where it is in time. Usually the graph here, the printed waveform is much more accurate. So we'll go here, and then I will select using the arrow tool, the move tool here. And then I have a key command set up as Command or Control K. And once I do that, you can see it makes a split. We don't want to be using the razor tool. Now we can use the razor tool to come in here and just click, but it's really inaccurate and really quite slow. The less we have to use a mouse to do an action, the faster we go. So back here we go. I'm going to cut and I'm going to get rid of this, select this other junk over here and just get rid of it. And now I have a good start. I can also do a crossfade in, which we typically want to do, and that's this little square looking triangle on square thing here. And we click and drag and we get this beautiful crossfade. Now, as I continue to hold, I can go up or down and create a different curve. Now, I like these curves that are in this shape. And we'll just go right up to that S.
So Lisa, what had you get involved or interested in acting?
Now, notice that I stop talking and she starts going for a while. Well, really, this is all just dead time. Even though she's speaking over it, we don't want to have two microphones going at the same time if only one is being used. So we do the reverse process. We go to the end, and this is what you would want to do if you were coming to the end of a podcast or make a new edit.
In acting.
Right about here. We don't have to be perfect. Just something like this. We just don't want to cut off the end. See how we did?
Interested in acting.
Now, I did cut it off a little bit, so I'm going to extend it. I could undo and recut, or I can bring the mouse down to here and get this bracket tool and then click again, and it allows me to extend it a little bit more. We'll do this fade.
Interested in acting.
Very nice. So we've been able to cut out all that, and we have a nice intro and an outro for this simple edit. Now, if we put these all together, we still have all this other stuff on the other track, so this gives us more practice. But notice what happens.
So Lisa, what had you...
So she has a little inhale gale, this little thing that happens right here.
So Lisa, what had you get involved or interested in acting?
Now, like we said before, we don't want to have two microphones open if only one's working. And this is the only mic that we want to have here because hers is filled with noise and my bleed. In fact, if we solo...
So Lisa, what had you get involved or interested in acting?
There's no good audio there at all that we want to keep. So what we want to do is come over here and cut. Now we could cut here and miss her little lip smack. And the and just cut in here. But the problem is we'll have dead air, and we never want to have dead air. It makes everybody kind of wake up and go, oh, there's something wrong. I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We'll select the track we want to cut. I'll hit that special key command to cut, and I'll get rid of this, and I'll make a crossfade like we know to do just into her first word, and here we go.
So Lisa, what had you get involved or interested in acting?
It's just dead nothing, right? We don't want that at all. Boo. We didn't want the inhale gale, we don't want the microphone under her, and we don't want any of this. So what we need to do is, whenever we make cuts on two microphones, and we don't want to truncate time, which I'm going to show you how to do next, we always want to make our cuts overlap with the previous outgoing cut. So we will do this cut, and then bring it in here and do an opposite crossfade. And in fact, what we may need to do, because we're doing a dual crossfade, is what we call equal volume, which requires the other kind of fade when you're coalescing them like this. We don't want the opposite. If we do this is kind of complicated, but just trust me on this. If we have a crossfade that does this, we'll actually have a little dip in volume.
Interested in acting.
Kind of goes like this, and there's a dip in there. Otherwise, normally then, if we're bringing two cuts together, we want to have this equal fade this way.
Interested in acting.
Much nicer.
When I was really young, I actually started off as a dancer.
So that's how we would do this, and it's nice and clean. We have one microphone and then the other, and we're good to go here. Now, what happens if we do want to truncate time and butt things together and not have any dead time at all in between cuts? We can do that. We'll do the same thing again, only this time we're not going to be at all too careful about our cutting. This is the part that we want here. I'm going to select both of these. I will cut. We'll get rid of this. We'll come to the end of this, acting on his voice. We'll cut both of these, and then we're going to come to the beginning of her start. When, probably about right here. We'll cut through both of these. Now what we can do is delete these and drag them together with a little bit of a crossfade. You see how it brings those little yellow lines in there, like so. That will be too far, but just there.
Or interested in acting.
When I was really young,
And then we can get rid of this one, and we can get rid of this one. And now we're in a good space just to put those final crossfades in, now that we know.
Or interested in acting.
When I was really...
Time truncated, but there's an even faster way. Going back to where we had cut the dead space, here's what we can do, and a fun thing that Audition can do that will save you a lot of hours. Now, if I hit the regular backspace key, we know this happens, and then we have to drag, but we can do it all at once. In my case, I've set my key commands to be so that if I hit Shift backspace, it not only deletes the file, but also brings what's coming next in. And then I can still do the same idea, bring this over here like so, get rid of this, get rid of this. We know it's in a good space, make our crossfades. And
Interested in acting.
When I was
good to go.